words on the evening of election night, in some cases to justify ending the count. Well, let me say clearly.
Florida gubernatorial candidate Andrew Gillum just took the podium for an announcement that turned the race on its head. And I'm certain that we'll be hearing about this in some bumbling tweet by Trump. But in the meantime, things just took a pretty dramatic turn in the Sunshine State. Now, we know Gillum is a talented speaker, but his last line in this speech hits the nail on the head.
What I do know is that we don't just get the opportunity to stop counting votes because we don't like the direction in which the vote tally is heading. That is not democratic, and that certainly is not the American way. In America, we count every vote regardless of what the outcome may be. They've even used my own words on the evening of election night, in some cases to justify ending the count. Well, let me say clearly, I am replacing my words of concession with an uncompromised and unapologetic call that we count every single vote. That we count every vote. And I say this recognizing that my fate in this may or may not change. What I do know is that every single Floridian who took time to go out, to cast their vote, to participate in this process, deserve the comfort of knowing that in a democratic society and in this process, every vote will be counted. I've got to imagine that if the shoe were on the other foot of my opponents, not one of them would seek a different outcome. Not one of them would stand in the way of counting every vote.
We're officially in recount territory, with Gillum trailing DeSantis by only 0.4%. In the Florida Senate race, the margin is even closer, with Bill Nelson trailing Rick Scott by 0.15%. Now, first of all, and most importantly, concessions are not legally binding. Yes, Andrew Gillum conceded, but it's nothing more than a courtesy to his opponent. And he's since been clear as day in his desire to make sure that every vote cast gets counted. And second of all, despite what Trump and Sean Hannity and Republicans are whining about, it's important to pay attention to the fact that thus far, there is no indication of any fraud in this race. The GOP is engaging in a dangerously irresponsible disinformation campaign aimed at sowing distrust in the process. But even the Republican Secretary of State in Florida has assured voters that there is no indication of fraud. Just because Republicans don't like who the votes are for, doesn't mean that they get to throw a temper tantrum so they won't be counted. For example, Politico just reported that the White House and the RNC are pushing Martha McSally, the Republican Senate candidate in Arizona, to peddle a conspiracy theory that something is amiss in her race, just because she's fallen behind. Top Republican officials are, quote, expressing a desire for more aggressiveness. There is no way to fully express just how terrible that is. They are purposefully undermining Americans' trust in our own election system, the backbone of our democracy, in a desperate attempt to make sure that your votes aren't counted because they want to win. Guess things have gotten desperate on the right since Putin wasn't around to help out. Over the next 5 days, all eyes are on Florida, where we expect every last vote to be counted.